Welcome to Andy's Chomping at the Bit. Hello and welcome to Andy's Chomping at the Bit, presented by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of Andy's Chomping at the Bit. So this is a big episode because it is the final episode of the season. It's going to be the final episode for a little bit as well. So we are also dealing with the 50th episode. So it's very significant. I decided I'm going to go back today and reflect on our very first episode, my very first one. And I was only 67 days clean and sober when I recorded it. So it's pretty significant. You'll notice a lot of various differences between me then and me now. So I'm going to jump to that real quick, and I'll probably pop in from time to time as well for you guys to observe reaction. So here we go.
Hello and welcome to the first ever full episode of Andy's Chopping at the Bit on Tuesday, November 15th. Today I have decided I am going to talk about something pretty personal to myself, but it does represent a big problem in not just our country but globally for the most part. That topic is addiction. A lot of people struggle both with addiction and from the outside, people who know people with addiction don't really know how to address it, don't understand exactly the mentality behind it, why you do this, why you do that. Reality is, and this is a hard one to swallow for even myself, and especially people that have never used. They're not good by any means. They have a lot of negative consequences too, a lot of negative consequences. But people aren't drawn to them just because they're rebelling. The reality is they're drawn to them because they have either depression or anxiety or whatever the case may be. And as bad as it is to say, they work. What people don't realize that use them, including myself, is the consequences for taking the instant gratification rather than more healthy alternatives, healthier coping skills, healthier activities. Myself, I tend to be the adrenaline extreme kind of junkie guy. I always want to one up myself, whether it be cliff jumping, whether it be bungee jumping, climbing a mountain, all that stuff. I love that adrenaline, which is part of the reason I did what I did as far as my addiction. Trying something new that I never tried before, that adrenaline rush, that idea. Unfortunately, that's also extreme behavior. You can get adrenaline rushes much healthier ways, riding a motorcycle, going sailing, several other healthier ways. But that is not the route I took, unfortunately. It led me to try things, and then once I realized that what I'd been told growing up wasn't entirely true, or at least I was missing a lot of the truth, I tended to go to it almost instantly when I felt depressed, or when I felt anxious, or when I felt bored even. That's the reality of drugs, unfortunately, is they do work, but and in today's age, we're so used to that instant gratification to a fault, and they do that. But obviously, they have long-term consequences. They make you do things that you normally wouldn't do. You know that it's long-term going to cause problems. And it did. For me, it did. I did a lot of things I wouldn't have rationally done. I had bought a new car, and a couple months later, what did I do? I sold the car. I sold it for drugs, to be exact. Brand new car, sold it for drugs. I wish that was where it ended. I cleaned up for a couple months, which definitely was a good thing. I did need to clean up. But last year, literally the day after Michigan State beat Michigan in football, I relapsed. And that relapse was by far the biggest relapse I had had. I ended up doing things I would never have done in a sober state of mind. I took stuff, stole stuff. Ended up getting arrested in January for a laundry list of um, regretful decisions that caught up to me, and I spent 6 months in jail in Kent County. After I searched my 6 months, um, I was positive in my head that I was not going to use again. I mean, I was dead set that, okay, I'm not going to go down this road again. I'm not going to do what I just did. Um, then, literally, as I am leaving, as I'm getting picked up, I'm already planning out going back to the streets. Um, but my plan was, okay, I'll only do this for like this evening. That's all I'm going to do. Just one last hurrah, say goodbye to it. Boom, I'll get picked up tomorrow morning. I'll be off out of the area and never have to worry about it again. Um, that was the biggest lie I had told myself in quite a while. Because a few hours turned into a few days, which turned into doing what I was doing. And then 2 weeks later, going back to jail in Nuevo County um, for essentially the same dumb mistakes that I had already made 6 months earlier. Finally, when I did get out of Nuevo this past time, uh, on bond, after a couple weeks of screwing up again, I finally made the right choice. I ended up going to inpatient rehab, and not just cleaning myself up, but understanding better uh, the whole thing of addiction. Yeah, I went through a lot of tough times because of my addiction. A lot of tough times. With that being said, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have the knowledge of what I have today. Um, through my time with addiction, I met quite a few bad people, but in that same time, I also met quite a few good people that I would have never come across. So people that kind of got covered up by society or got covered up from their addiction that actually are good people, just in unfortunate circumstances. And made me who I am today. And the other benefit of being an addict, it's the only one I can think of really, it gives you a greater appreciation for life. It really does. Not when you're in active addiction, but when you're recovering, because things that everyday people would take for granted, you finally get to see it in a different lens. Like I said, people don't realize how much they have, how much good they have in their lives, um, and that includes people that aren't addicts. Um, you don't realize how much you have around you to be thankful for, and because of my addiction, I was able to see some of that stuff. Um, and of course, there were times where I felt bad because I took it for granted. But I'm here now. I'm clean now, and I can appreciate it now. So, one of the hardest things about addiction is admitting that you were wrong about certain things, um, and growing and not holding a grudge over your head, or holding a grudge over other people's heads during your time of active addiction. That's another challenge, but I'm here today, and I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, that was that was interesting being able to see for a series of reasons. To start, uh, I think that I'm gonna start from the back end of it, um, with the whole holding grudges on ourselves and others. It's easy to beat ourselves up over past mistakes. Um, Regret, shame, things like that, they'll destroy you. Let's be realistic, they destroy people. They do. Um, Regret it's not letting go of the past. You can learn from the past, but when you regret it, you're not moving on. Um, and you're wishing you could take it back, which we can't. You're forgetting to see, or you're overlooking the lessons you learned from those mistakes. If you take it back, you don't learn those lessons. At least not at that point. You might learn it in a much harder way. You might not have the opportunity to learn that lesson. So I really liked that part of it. Um, I also want to go into the where I talked about gratitude. Gratitude is and being thankful for things. That is one of the main things that I can say that I take out of having addiction. It's part of it. You do gain a lot of gratitude. You see things differently. Unfortunately, you also get that from jail. But addiction in particular is so much bigger effect. A lot of people don't get to experience that, not at the same level. I mean, there are people that do in different ways. I'd say people that have survived cancer or severe accidents, they can experience it. And other things that are along those lines where you just completely, things change in a way that you are unexpected. Um, there was a time when I'd beat myself up over, having taking life for granted. Uh, while other people might have had lesser circumstances that were struggling, I had a great life, great opportunity, and I was doing this and that. I could beat myself up over that for a while. I don't do it anymore. The reason I don't do it anymore, it's the same reason I don't hold really regrets after. I mean, immediately after doing something, I might hold it, but long term, I don't like to hold the regrets. Uh, One, because it's being a victim. Uh, Once you're aware of something, you can be sad for a while. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel grief and mourn. It's okay to feel all those different emotions. That's okay. Uh, but if you just stay in that state forever, you're not growing. Once you're aware of it, you can do something. You can start learning how to cope with it. You can learn how to overcome it. You can go from a victim to a survivor. It's a reality. Even if it's not you know, a serious thing that you're surviving, that's okay. You can survive it. You can just survive a lot of different things if you choose to take that approach. Um, Victim mentality, I guess, is deciding to embrace complacency. It's enabling uh, whatever you're struggling with, whatever your bad habit might be. It enables that. You're not benefiting, um, and that's significant. So, also with regret, you aside from that side of it, you how do I want to put this? When you hold on to regret, you don't get to move on. It's reality. You carry a weight that you don't need to carry. There's so much I gained from my mistakes. Um, one of the things that I gained from my stupidity, I'll say that, I'll flat out say that, as far as choices, very poor choices, very unwise. I shouldn't say stupid, so unwise is much more accurate. Decisions. Then I don't like to say regretful anymore because I learned from those. It took some legal consequences um, to face it. Even after I had stopped using, I had to go to jail again. I had to turn myself. I didn't have to, but I did turn myself in, and that was scary. It was scary. I won't lie. It was terrifying. Not because I didn't think I'd survive jail life again. It was because I was still fresh as far as recovery was concerned. I knew there was drugs in jail. It's more readily available in jail than it is on the streets. You're just different types of drugs, similar effect, and more expensive. But I didn't want to go back to that environment, and it was being stuck in a toxic environment instead of the supportive one that I had at that moment. But I did it anyway because it was part of accountability. And at the point I recorded that episode, I was taking some accountability. I was starting to make that step. I wasn't there all the way. If you watch the episode, its entirety. I like to use society as an excuse for some of it, and it does play a part. But as I said, you can't be a victim once you're aware of it, and I was aware of it early on in my addiction. I also mentioned at one point that about the adrenaline junkie, and I kind of had to chime in with the video. I didn't do audio, obviously. Shaking my head on it because it's not 100% true. I didn't know that though. 67 days sober and clean, I didn't know who I was yet. I thought I knew based on the past. I had to relearn who I was. And that's not always easy because you don't want to let go of who you thought you were sometimes. It's scary because you're literally, it's like starting, um, it's like getting to know someone else, but it's you. So you don't have any real frame of reference on things. You don't know what you want. That's scary. I'll tell you what, it's scary not knowing what you want. Um, and it's scary when you think you know what you want, but happen to be, or but being open to the idea that you don't really know and that there's something that you might be wrong about. Um, that's part of that's part of the process. It is. Uh, but I wasn't as much as adrenaline junkie as I was looking to fill a gap. I was trying to find happiness. Adrenaline, I did enjoy. I did jump out of an airplane recently, but it wasn't to one up myself like I thought back then. Uh, it was for a fundraiser. It was a bucket list item. I have other big bucket list items. I someday would like to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm not shooting for Everest. I'm okay with that. But Mount Kilimanjaro just it looks such an amazing experience. So it's more the adventure on that. But even then, it's that's not the drive. I can find so much satisfaction around here. Uh, the simple things in life. I was trying to fill a void, and I was looking for happiness. I was searching to find happiness elsewhere. You can't find happiness elsewhere. You have to find it in yourself. You have to find it. If you're not happy, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you're not happy with nothing, nothing will ever make you be happy. It's the truth. You'll never find happiness in anything else. You won't find it in money or any other possessions. You won't find it in another person. You may try to, you may rely on them, you may try having them rely on you, but guess what? It's not going to make you happy. It's just a desperation attempt. Uh, and I think we're all guilty of that sometimes, at some point in our life. Um, some longer than others, some never break out of that, but I hope you guys do if you're watching. Uh, because that's not going to make you happy. No one and nothing will, except for you. Because you can't search for it, you got to find it. As far as within, you got to learn to, you got to live with it's not finding it at the end of the journey. It is the journey. It's just how it is. Uh, I didn't know that at that time. I was trying to fill a gap. I thought that would fill the happiness. It was really what drove the addiction. It was definitely what drove my sex addiction. Thinking that, well, if I have this person's in my life, as long as they're with me, I'll be happy, and as long as they're here, and as long as they're happy, I'm happy. No, that's just not how it works. That's why I couldn't stop at that point because I didn't know that. I didn't know that's not what brings happiness. I didn't know that the point of relationships wasn't to feel whole. The point of relationships was to share what you have and help contribute into someone else's life that can also share what they have as far as experiences and other parts of them to benefit in your life as well. You don't need that though. It's an addition. You have to have happiness to really embrace that. And that goes with anything. That goes with a job. Income's great. It allows you to pay bills. It covers your essentials. And by all means, it's important to assist in not just your life, but contributing in society and contributing with others around you so you're not a liability. That does play a factor with me. That's part of why I restructured Big Andy Media. I love these projects, but I couldn't operate um, the way I was. I wasn't. I wasn't creating enough stability long term. I was getting by at the, scraping by the, what is it, the edge of my teeth or something like that. I don't remember how that saying goes. Uh, but that wasn't living. That was surviving, and that's why I've went out of my way and I'm in running for a handful of jobs from Grand Rapids and even surrounding cities further out. Uh, that that's going to allow me to have that stability. But I had at that point, you know, 67 days clean sober. I didn't know anything of that matter. In fact, at that point, I didn't plan on having employment. I didn't think I was worthy of employment. I really didn't. I thought I was going to I shouldn't say kick back. I thought I was going to have to rely on Social Security disability. Uh, at that point, I had mental health diagnosis that I could have probably done that. I later found out, and by later I mean literally like I think 3 weeks ago, uh, I had the opportunity to be reevaluated. I didn't know that this was going to happen. As far as I didn't know it was going to be a full evaluation, and I didn't know that they were going to change anything. Uh, but what happened essentially is they took. I found out that my two previous mental health diagnoses were inaccurate. One was flat out wrong, and drugs played a part of that diagnosis. And the other one, it was in the same spectrum, just less severe. And so the one that was in the same spectrum, less severe, I was originally diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I found out that it was actually cyclothymic. Was that right? Cyclothymic disorder. That is, in case you want to Google it, it's CYCLOTHYMIC disorder. But it's on the same scale, but it's on a less severe version of it, which was refreshing. It's a medication thing, still it's a therapy thing, but it's not quite as intense. Um, that's comforting. The other one, they were able to roll out. I'll do another podcast, some episode in the future when they come back on that side of things. But you know, one, it means I can't get disability, but that's okay. I don't want disability. I can work. I'm capable of it. That's the beautiful thing, and I've been doing that. It's been great. Now it's stability, and that's something I value. Big Andy's my dream, and I'm doing it. But I have other dreams in my life. Not all my dreams are professional. A lot of them are personal. And when it comes to push comes to shove, I value personal over professional. It's the reality of it. I do. There's a lot of things valuable in my life. Some things can be changed. Professional can be changed if need be. But I modified it to make it work. Anyway, going back to that first episode, where I was very raw, very learning. Uh, I was obviously very different physically. I was heavier, much heavier. Voice was different. I slurred. I couldn't. My S's were more or less. I can't really do it anymore. That's a good thing. Because of the damage. That's reality. They do damage. Drugs do damage over time, and that first year is significant for healing. It's where most of it happens. And fortunately, most of the healing did happen in that first year, especially mood wise and stabilizing. I think in total it takes up to 3 years. Here I am. Sunday will be 3 years. I look forward to that. Uh, but basically, some of the things what I'm at now, most of it that's still there, may always be there. There's some things that I can still work on regardless. Before I never struggled with stuttering. I started stuttering because of narcotics. And I still do sometimes when I get excited or when my brain starts going faster than my mouth. That still happens sometimes. But those are things I can work on. They actually have exercises you can do for that. It's pretty nice. When the connections started going again and reconnecting and reforming and making new connections, there were trade-offs too. Some things that changed within my mind. Um, One of the better things, I used to always be able to recall random tidbits, and I when it's at Specs Howard, we learned how to store stuff better in long-term memory. But when the healing started happening at some point, it was close to, it was about 6, 7 months in. I All of a sudden I could recall in vivid detail conversations from like seventh grade in the lunch line. Things that I wouldn't have remember. I didn't remember before that. I didn't remember the details of those. I didn't know what someone was wearing that day. Uh, all of a sudden I can remember those. I still struggle with names, but the visual is still there. Um, Somehow, all of a sudden it's there, and I couldn't recall it in the past. But now these things, they I can recall a lot more things that I ever was able to in the past, even before drugs. Uh, but there's a trade-off too. Sounds are horribly distracting for me now. I will blank out sometimes, not blank out. But as far as thought process, I've already done it twice in this video that I'm aware of, where I lost my train of thought over minor sounds. If there's light talking in the background and I'm listening to someone, I sometimes I'm hearing, but all of a sudden, even no matter how hard I try, all of a sudden I cannot register what's being said. Sometimes the same thing will happen with my own thoughts. I hear something and I can't understand my own thoughts. It just it lot you know it's almost like a concussion. If you have enough concussions to happen, and there could be ties with that. No doubt, I got hit in the head multiple times when I was in active addiction, so that very well could be a side effect of that. Um, but I feel like it got as the memory thing got better, that or at least that became more noticeable. I think it's because other aspects were healing and that was remaining. But I can take that trade off. Where I am today compared to where I was not back then, that's night and day. And I'm proud of who I was back then because I was taking a very big step. I was struggling, but I was still putting one foot in front of the other. I believe it is either in that episode or at least in one of the episodes of the first season. I quote a line from Sylvester Stallone, his Rocky character in the movie Creed, talking about it's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up. And that's true. That's true. 100% true. It's learning moments. Before I wrap this up, I have one more clip that I want to share with you. This clip is actually episode 5, the final of season 1. I had to go to jail a couple days later, and I didn't get out for a while. So, but this one's talking about vulnerability, weakness, and sharing those things and being open about them and talking about emotions. So I'll comment afterwards. Here we go.
Wrong with having flaws, and there's nothing wrong with showing weakness. I'm getting tired of this kind of general idea from the society, as I guess you could say, uh, that showing your emotions or admitting a flaw or talking about a flaw somehow makes you weak, and that's completely a joke in my opinion. Um, do you know how much more strength it takes to come out and expose a weakness of yourself or expose a flaw than it does to cover it up? Or do you know how much harder it is to publicly express your emotion than to bottle it up? Um, that's a big issue with not just our country, well, our society as a whole. It's kind of a global thing, but really our country as a whole, it's a big problem too. More internationally focused or nationally focused here. Um, and it's really causing problems, not just for me. It's causing problems for many people. That stigma, uh, and I think we're getting a little bit better as a society, breaking certain things like guys not being able to show emotion. It's slowly opening it up. Um, so I guess things are going in the right way a little bit, but not as fast as I'd like them to. Not as fast as they should be going, in my opinion. Um, but just know that if you do express something that's vulnerable of yourself, that's not a weakness. It actually takes more courage to openly say something like that than to try covering it up with the tough guy or the I'm emotionless kind of thing. Everyone has emotions. Everyone has weaknesses. Nothing wrong with saying them. Nothing wrong with expressing them.
That is 100% true on that last part. I like that in general. Um, I attribute that to my growth, a lot of it, because it's changing in that manner. It's uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable, especially in today's society. It's uncomfortable, especially as a guy. It's uncomfortable, and it's not just a guy thing that's uncomfortable. It's certain ethnicities have a harder time because of cultural norms. Regardless, certain things women have a harder time addressing because of society and cultural norms. But it's the truth. We all do have flaws. I still have flaws. That was 67 days clean and sober. Here I'm a couple days away from 3 years. I still have flaws. I still have fears. I still am vulnerable in a lot of ways, um, and I still have insecurities. But I can say that those that I have today are not the same fears necessarily I had at 67 days. They're not necessarily the same flaws. In fact, a lot of my flaws have now become strengths because I worked on them. I addressed them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The vulnerability, I've become able to address those easier, or to show them easier, and more frequently. I've built the courage to do that, and never underestimate the power of courage because I still have fear. You cannot overcome fear without courage. And if you don't have fear, you never develop courage. Courage is a great thing. We all have emotions. I still have sad emotions. I still have happy emotions. Angry. They're all are joyous, not happy. You know, those are all still there. The way that I deal with them is different. I'm more open about it. I am more composed. I address them in a more healthy manner. But they're there. I still feel hurt sometimes. I still feel scared. I still have insecurities. Um, in various ways. I still have, even in relationships and datings, there's still some insecurities I have. Not nearly what they were, but guess what? I still have them. Fortunately, I'm consciously aware of them too. And I understand that those are often the result of past trauma. And I can consciously tell myself, hey, this isn't the same situation. This isn't the same person. You can't hold that against them. You can't assume that this is going to happen again like that. That's part of how I address some of the insecurities. In other ways, my insecurities are not there. It's amazing. I uh, I have a different attitude with um, not just in relationships and dating, but in general, the attitude changes. But the attitude doesn't change automatically. I had to start going towards these discomforts, these fears, and they become less scary when you put them out in the open somehow. Um, you take some beatings on some of it, but you grow. One of the things I struggle with is, to this day, I think it's common. Some things I can't control. Some circumstances, I talked about the whole victim thing earlier. Guess what? There's still things that I slip into that sometimes. There's things I get upset about and I struggle with. I still have to vent sometimes. I vent to friends, family, professionally and professionally. I've had to deal with someone with the same legal identity as me as far as first and last name doing some horrible things, and I've had to face the consequences for their actions. By facing the consequences, I mean through employers, through clients, through family and friends, or friends of friends and family of friends, because of simple mistaken identity. I had no control over that, and I don't have a legal option. So I've had to learn to do things to lessen it, to make it so I don't get threats and attacks, verbal attacks for something I didn't do. I've had to learn to handle that. And there's things I can do later on that I plan on doing as well. You know, as far as professionally goes, one of the things that scared the hell out of me lately is AI. I've noticed that it's been harder to do things because of AI. And I can be the victim on it, but I don't want to be the victim. So I do talk about it with people. I've done things with Beginning Media to address that. Some of it out of fear, but some of it also out of a safe precaution. And I've gotten a lot of quality feedback from a lot of people over the last few days. Really good feedback, really good suggestions. And I've taken the time to listen to them and consider them. And I'll say that a lot of them I'm actually following on. Really good ideas to things to adapt to work with that. Things as far as approach mentally, alternative ideas and suggestions. There's so much that I gained. And I should say that none of them were from people in the media industry. None of them are from people in the music industry. I don't have to take advice from professionals to gain something out of it. Constructive criticism I can listen to regardless. Positive, productive suggestions I can listen to regardless. A Hall of Fame basketball coach taught me that through his actions. That would be Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo. I was able to observe him doing that a couple times over the years. And so, if he can be a Hall of Famer with that approach, I can do well in my field as well with that approach. That's my idea on it. I can be an expert in something, but guess what? I can still learn from someone who knows nothing on that field or knows less. And talking about criticism and feedback and fears and all those things, it's easy to put up that shield with vulnerability. One of my favorite researchers and authors is someone by the name of Brene Brown. I started out with just TED Talk podcasts. Then I got into her books thanks to a great suggestion from someone. But she gave a great quote, and I believe this was in her Dare to Lead audiobook, which is the one I'm listening to still. It's information packed. Anyway, she said, and I quote, "A lot of cheap seats in the arena are filled with people who never venture onto the floor. They just hurl mean-spirited criticisms and put-downs from a safe distance. The problem is, when we stop caring what people think and stop feeling hurt by cruelty, we lose our ability to connect. But when we're defined by what people think, we lose the courage to be vulnerable. Therefore, we need to be selective about the feedback we let into our lives. For me, if you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback." I love that quote. I love it because of a couple of reasons. It shows balance for one. I love the whole thing with balance as far as when dealing with vulnerability. You should care to some extent. I know people like to say, "I don't care what anyone thinks." That's not always good. And there's certain circumstances that's understandable, like certain mentalities. If no one else believed in balance, I'm still going to go with balance. But you know what? If family, if there's something about family that that I do that makes them uncomfortable, I care. I care about their opinion. I care about their concerns because they're with me on a lot of this stuff. You know, friends. I I learned who's worth listening to. Um, I also learned that if you're not someone I would, um, if you're not someone I would go to ask for advice, if you're someone I wouldn't want to ask for advice, it's probably best that I don't listen to your criticism as well. It's the reality. They typically go hand in hand. I ask a lot of people for advice. With that being said, I have gone for a very long time. Part of it's because I don't want to end this episode because I know it's going to be a break for a long time with the podcast. Hopefully not as long as the gap between episodes or seasons 1 and 2, but it's going to be a while. I have a lot of additional growth to go with, but I have a lot of projects and stability and building on amazing things already existing um, that I'm going to prioritize. So, thank you for all the time you have tuned in. If you're still here at this point, I really do appreciate it. So, until you get to hear from me again, which I will talk a lot at that time as well. Um, I wish you the best, um, and uh, and everything's gonna be okay. So take care.
Andy's Chomping at the Bit is brought to you by Big Andy Media.